It's a wild day in the world of Magic the Gathering. Wizards of the Coast just admitted so many failures with Magic the Gathering in 2022 that it took an entire page for me to write them all down. On top of that, we're also going to talk about another product delay.
Magic. I am a wizard! History. I'm an old wizard! The Magic Historian. My bones hurt.
Greetings! Owners of fine luxury cardboard rectangles, my friends! I hope the day finds you well because we have gathered to talk about the state of Magic in 2022. Now, Wizards of the Coast, for some unknowable and glorious reason, is still allowing Mark Rosewater to do these State of Magic articles. And in this one, there is a ton of information, not just on what Wizards considers to be their successes, but more importantly, what they consider to be their failures. Because this will inform their choices going forwards. So when we take a look at where they've messed up, we can both see what we already know is a problem with the game, but also see what they see as a problem with the game and where we're going from there, all right? So basically, this is all taken from a massive article written by Mark Rosewater. I'm focusing specifically on the issues that we have with the game. Now, he does start by kind of giving an umbrella summary of the categories that they really did kind of fail in. The biggest change that they're going to make going forwards is in terms of backwards compatibility. So going forwards, they're starting to view Magic as an eternal world, okay? Now, I don't know if this is a concept that Mark Rosewater is using as a term for it, or if this is an internal company term for it, but essentially, what the eternal world means is that they're designing Magic for the entirety of Magic. So now, it's not just going to be, we're keyed into particular formats, we're designing for particular formats. They are going to be thinking, how can the stuff we make now work well with things from the past, not cause too many problems, at least from the angle that they're talking about. So the Eternal World is a big one for me, because up until now, we've been seeing them focusing on multiple different formats. You got Standard, Pioneer, Modern, and it's not like they're still going to be making products for that. They still will, but at the same time, now they're going to be taking a longer view where everything they make is going to be put from the view of, yes, we technically are making this for Modern, Pioneer, Standard, but ultimately, we're making it from the perspective of this is for the entirety of Magic, right? So that is one of the summary issues. The biggest issue that they're suffering from this year is horrific public relations, at least in my opinion. So let's dive into each individual set and cover where things went wrong. So Innistrad Midnight Hunt is the first one we're going to talk about. Now, that was meant to be a werewolf-themed set, and we saw from the execution of it that it really did not execute. Now, before we actually fully dive into that, I want to tell you my theory. I believe they were originally just going to make one Innistrad set. And then they said, you know what? Let's see what we can get out of this. Split it into two sets. So take what we already have, stretch it across two sets, and make a bunch of filler so we have two full sets. And then somebody else came along and said, yo, why don't we take it a step further? We're taking this one set, splitting it into two sets. Why don't we take those two sets, put them back together, and sell it as another set? And that's how we got double feature, right? So basically, my opinion is they took one Innistrad and split it into three. And we go into this right here, and it kind of backs it up. So you've got the werewolf theme from Innistrad Midnight Hunt. Now, it was so poorly executed that one of the biggest complaints I heard while the spoiler season was going on was, where are the good werewolves? Where are all the werewolves? This is a werewolf set. They literally, before they told us the name of the set, they were like, we're doing Innistrad werewolves and we're doing Innistrad vampires. And then they changed the names to Midnight Hunt and Crimson Vow, but those are both keyed into those creature types, right? So you have to deliver on the werewolf concept, and they delivered so poorly on the werewolf concept that they didn't make a commander deck for it. That tribe did not get a commander deck. It was a werewolf-themed set. They didn't bother to make a commander deck for it. On top of that, the day-night mechanic really locked them in a box in terms of it lacked backwards compatibility. You couldn't use it with previous werewolves. So the set that was about werewolves didn't have enough werewolves, didn't have enough strong werewolves, didn't have a werewolf commander deck, and also didn't line up with previous werewolves for a werewolf set, right? So that obviously ties into the horrific public relations in terms of not telling us what we're getting properly. And we're going to see this repeated again and again, right? The same kind of thing happens with Innistrad Crimson Vow. Innistrad Crimson Vow is supposed to be the vampire set. And what happens? You have a bunch of vampires that are just kind of whatever, right? Like in the Innistrad Midnight Hunt, actually, I forgot to mention as well, they didn't balance the set for limited. This is a big issue. They didn't balance the set properly for limited. Think about that for a second. The whole reason that Wizards say there are so many whatever commons and uncommons in a set and the way everything is laid out is because they balance them for limited environments. That's the excuse they use to make even the master sets and stuff like that have a bunch of junk commons and uncommons in them. So the argument's supposed to be they're in there to balance the environment, but they didn't balance it for limited. So limited was a terrible experience and people didn't enjoy it. Then you move on to Innistrad Crimson Vow with the vampires and not having the real enough of a vampire presence. On top of that, Innistrad is a very gothic horror style world. It's very, very clear. But the nature of the Crimson Vow wedding was just kind of way out there. It really pulled a lot of the horror aspect out of it. And while there were certain people who enjoyed it, it didn't go over as well as they had hoped. And even worse than that, the mechanics that they included didn't gel. They basically just kind of got passed over. So training, cleave, and exploit all just kind of had people shrugging. And exploit actually proved to be an additional problem because it made people go, wait a minute, why don't we have the mechanic from the previous set where we have to sacrifice, why don't we have the decayed zombie tokens? They're perfect for exploit. So there wasn't enough synergy between the two sets. It's like they just yanked the mechanics across two different sets instead of putting something between them to make it feel like it's even the same world. I mean, even the story itself felt like it was stretched and weird, where Olivia's just able to grab Catilda the Spirit Witch, and it's like, but you've got Teferi controls time. He has time magic. He controls time. Chandra could set her on fire. It was just so forced. It felt like there was not very much effort put into making it make sense, right? So you end up with the vampires feeling really weak, not making a presence, and the limited environment in this case is the opposite of the werewolf environment, where now you have way too many crazy bombs, and these bombs don't really make much of a difference at all in standard because they're not powerful, but in the limited format, they're wrecking stuff up. So it's almost like, since they both had limited formats, and they were both on either sides of the scales with problems, it kind of feels like maybe if they had been merged together, there would have been a proper balance. It's almost like the Innistrad was one set and split into two. There's so much of that makes it feel that way. And then Double Feature was a hated product. Out of everything that was talked about, Double Feature is listed as the biggest failure. There's nothing around, there's no language used to describe it at all that talks about any success. So it's a pure failure. People hated it. They did not enjoy the black and white theory of it, and it felt very slapped together because it did. Basically what he says is people felt like he uses very couched language in that he won't just say things directly, and it's just kind of like, oh, well, we said this, and people thought that implied this. And so basically people thought for some reason that Double Feature was going to be a curated experience. And the reason people thought that is because that's the impression Wizards gave us. Take it from me. I'm somebody who sees all the promotional materials they make. I've seen them do this to us before. They did it with Iconic Masters. They made Iconic Masters, and when we all thought that it was going to be the best cards from the last 25 years, because that's what the marketing material said, when the set didn't do well, they went, oh, sorry guys, we didn't mean to give you the wrong impression. Iconic Masters was actually not iconic cards throughout Magic's history. It was iconic creature types, like Hydras and Saras. You didn't get that? Well, I mean, we didn't put it in the marketing materials, but that's what it was about. So that's the kind of stuff they do after the fact, right? They turn around and go, well, it was actually meant to be this, and we're sorry you misunderstood us. No, we understood you perfectly. We heard what you said, and we got the understanding that you wanted us to. Marketing is saying whatever it takes to get us to get the products. So Double Feature was supposed to be this special monster movie curated experience, but instead, it was so slapped together that it was literally every card from both Innistrad sets together, to the point where they didn't even bother to remove the extra Evolving Wilds. Both of the two sets had Evolving Wilds in them because why not? When you're being greedy and splitting one set into two sets, why not go ahead and go Evolving Wilds in both of them? That's less work. But then they slap it in there. Some people opened packs of Double Feature where they got both Evolving Wilds, I would be livid. They overcharged for it. They didn't do any like new art to make it special. They just went, yo, it's even cheaper for us because we made it monochrome. It's like the most low effort garbage product I've ever seen, where Wizards is like, can we sell them a set 3 times? And the answer is no, unless you put in a lot more effort. Now, one of the interesting points to me about this is the fact that Wizards moves slowly. So we might actually be seeing another double feature style product showing up at the beginning of 2023 based on Dominaria United and the Brothers War. That's pure speculation on my part. I don't know. But I do know that double feature is the biggest failure of 2022, and it absolutely deserves that title, right? Now, moving on to Kamigawa Neon Dynasty. Credit where credit is due. Kamigawa Neon Dynasty kicked the door in and went, what's up? I'm here! It has been a beast of a set. It sold so well. Tons of people are loving it. And I have to admit that it even surprised me. I thought it was going to be more jarring than it was. And I feel like Kamigawa Neon Dynasty was actually a success as a Magic set, even though it wasn't particularly my absolute cup of tea in terms of flavor, right? But even it had some failures that we can discuss. One of them is that it didn't connect enough to old Kamigawa, and that was clearly by intention, right? Wizards of the Coast is going, look, we never want to go back to Kamigawa. That place is a dog, it didn't sell well. But they really wanted to do a cyberpunk set, and they went, okay, it's too risky to make a brand new world based on a cyberpunk set when we're also going to be doing a mobster set and all this other stuff. So we need a property that people already know. So they grabbed the Kamigawa name, pulled pretty much everything out of it, and stretched its skin over a cyberpunk, like the Cyberpunk 2027 game, right? That one, they basically went, we're tying it in with this. So you have a situation where you don't have the kind of spirit overplay that links from one to another. You don't have the same kind of ability tie-ins. And there was also complexity issues with Kamigawa in terms of it not being obvious what was an artifact, what was an enchantment. You should be able to tell at a glance when you look at the board at least what a permanent is, right? So that leads to trickiness. And on a slightly lower level, the samurais sucked, bro. The samurais were really disappointing. People were jacked about getting samurais, and they were just jankified. So that is a big failure, because samurais, that's a massive lost opportunity. Samurais are super cool, right? But ultimately, Kamigawa is at the top of the list for least amount of failures. Now, let's turn to New Capenna. New Capenna was a big failure. Let's be very clear. He says, remember, this is somebody straight up working for Wizards of the Coast who has to use protected language. And he's saying, basically straight up, Capenna felt unfinished. And it did. He's like, it's a crime set. There's no real law enforcement. And there isn't. There's nobody enforcing the laws. Everybody can do what they want as they're part of these families. So the crime families are actually really the government and organization. And they didn't bother to flesh out all of the different organizations. There's such a different depth of story to the different groups as well, right? So the families really all kind of ended up feeling very same-ish with their 3 colors. They did not get distinctive definitions of themselves. And again, draft, unbalanced and repetitive. Another damning indictment of Wizards not bothering with the limited formats anymore. They don't care if the limited format is janked up. Give us your money anyways. We're putting all this stuff in the set to make it harder to get the expensive cards. That's all it is, really. So it's a frustrating scenario to find yourself in. And New Capenna suffered as well from massive story issues. Literally reading what Rosewater's talking about the story, he doesn't even know how it was presented to us. He's saying that when they told us the story that the angels had fled the city, that's not how it was presented to us at all. It was presented to us that the angels were all gone, dead. They're gone. The angels are long gone. They're dead, tricked and used up by the demons. That's what they told us. That's the story. And Rosewater doesn't even know that because he's got so many contradictory details floating around in his head because he's got to try and remember from years back, right? He's doing design for right now. That'll come out 2 years from now. So he's got to talk about design from 2 years ago. He doesn't even know the story. They told us all the angels were gone, and then they had a bunch of angels show up in the set. They told us Giada turned into an angelic essence to give Elspeth her magic sword. And then they gave us artwork where Elspeth is running with the magic sword that was created by Giada when she's gone and pulling Giada along behind her. It's the most inconsistent insanity with the story that I have seen since the days of Ikoria, where literally the card shows complete contradictory evidence to what's going on in the story. So you have all of this just going way off the map, and Capenna ending up as a pretty mess set that ends up getting overlooked. But the biggest failure of the year, we all know what it is Baldur's Gate Commander Legends. Do you know what one of the biggest statements that Rosewater made about it right away is? It shouldn't have been called Commander Legends. What did I say from the beginning, guys? I said that this Commander Legends set felt like they just took the D&D set and went, you know what? Why don't we just call it Commander Legends and just charge more for it? Why don't we just go, hey, this is, we made the second D&D set. We had a bunch of designs left over from the first one. Why don't we take those, lazily finish off the set real quick, and then we'll just push it out there. And we'll call it Commander Legends so we can up the price tag by, 75%. So they called it Commander Legends. And what happened is that built in people's minds a very particular expectation, specifically in regards to reprints. What's the language that he has here? Many believed the label Commander Legends implied it would have a lot of highly desired reprints for Commander. Like, that kind of a statement is really obnoxious, right? Where you go, many believed that this implied. Yeah, it's intentional. You guys are doing this to us on purpose. Rosewater's not, right? He's not part of marketing. Marketing are the guys who go, what is the best way to say it to these people so we can get their cheddar? And understand that Wizards of the Coast marketing philosophy has to be based on the principle of their customers only stick around for a year and a half to 2 years, because that is how they base things, right? They see us all as fair weather friends. We're only going to be here for a bit and gone. So does it matter if they lie to us? We'll be gone. We won't remember. So marketing is constantly telling us things that aren't true, right? We've seen things. What was it with the Double Masters? We have the exact same information where they're telling us the first Double Masters had misinformation, where they said you could get 2 foil, borderless, whatever, like the special box topper ones in a box of mythic variety when you couldn't. It was literally impossible. And they had to do this sort of, oh, sorry, please don't sue us redemption program, and they sent out booster packs. And then you come around to the second Double Masters, and here again we see more false advertising where it just straight up says, yo, you can get 2 of these in these booster packs, showing booster packs you literally can't get them from. Like, Wizards of the Coast is basically just outright. Sometimes they're just outright not lying to us in the most technical sense, but just tricking us through implication. Just going, oh, I'm sorry that you thought that thing based on what I said. Oh, hey, you know what? I really like spending time with you. I want to spend the rest of my life with you, and I wouldn't mind being married to you at all. Oh, did that imply that I love you? Oh, no, I don't even know why you would come to that. Like, why would you think for a second that I love you just because I said that I liked you and would spend the rest of my life with you and would marry you? What on earth what would make you think that that means I love you? Like, that's literally the type of tap dancing they do, where it's like, I'm sorry, what about it being a Commander Legends set made you think there was going to be like valuable Commander Legends reprints? Is it the fact that like we totally make these expensive sets based on putting expensive reprints in them, and we do this sort of like, it's pretty much automatically guaranteed by the name? Why would you think that? So you bought a box, something like labeled crackers and cheese, and you expect there to be crackers and cheese in it by the implication of the name, do you? I mean, I know that's a bit of a hyperbolic extension of what they're doing, but that's full on what's going on. Like, Rosewater is saying they need to communicate better with us, right? Like, it's getting to the level where Rosewater is straight up saying it, because the public relations as of late have felt very disingenuous, right? We feel like we're being lied to, essentially. Baldur's Gate felt like a scam, where they made us think there was going to be a bunch of exciting, good reprints in it, and it would be worth the higher price tag, when Rosewater said that it basically should have just been called the second D&D set. It should not have been put out as Commander Legends. It really didn't bring any innovation to the table. So, I mean, I'm totally of the mind they just had a bunch of the previous Dungeons & Dragons designs kicking around from the previous set, grabbed it, slapped it together, and then at the last minute went, just call it Commander Legends and print the packs differently. Like, it's not bringing the Commander Legends flow to the table. And then right after it, you have Double Masters 2022 coming out with not only a ton of juicy reprints, but the specific ones that you know are just for Commander. And that's really what enraged people. It's like, bro, you made a Commander Legends set, the place you would expect to find powerful reprints for Commander Legends. And as far as I understand, this Commander Legends set was even more expensive than the previous one. And then you have all these coalition issues where people aren't even able to get the cards. You're putting fewer packs in boxes, charging the same price. Like, it's wild insanity across the board. Wizards of the Coast has gone way too overboard in just the tomfoolery and going, hey man, you know what? Here's what we're doing. oops, nope, Iconic Masters wasn't what you wanted it to be, but Masters 25 will be. They'll do it with the next Commander Legends. I guarantee it. They'll be like, Commander Legends 3, don't worry, we heard you. This one's better, and maybe there'll be one reprint in it that you want. But sorry, guys, we had to bump the price up to $15 a pack because the Jewel Lotus costs a lot more to print than the commons do. And we put all the commons and uncommons and stuff in there because we create like really good, balanced, limited environments. Don't you know that's what you're paying for with these expensive packs? You're paying for the ability to get really good reprints, but you're also paying for a very carefully cultivated, limited. Oh, wait, we don't do that anymore? Wait, well then, what are they paying for? Oh, don't tell them? Oh, okay, yeah. Like, that's where we're at right now. So, Wizards of the Coast has a ton of failures in that regard. Now, let's move on real quick to the product delay thing, because talking about failures, they're constantly cranking stuff out, not taking the time to make things work, pushing as many products as they can to try and get our cheddar, while also on Arena cramming alchemy. Let's not even get off on that kind of thing. Anyways, product delays. Pioneer decks, my friends. They are delayed. Now they're not showing up in October. They're showing up all the way in November. So, I mean, that's the way of things. No, I don't know if this means your secret layer commander deck is going to take another billion years. People keep asking me. Sorry, guys, I don't know. I know they just sent out the booster packs. The commander decks, I don't even know if you're going to get them this year. I hope you do. Anyways, that's all the news that's fit to come out of this hole. So I will see you guys next time. Big shout out to my patrons.